be working on a little strategize, making sure we get our nuggets from last week.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we should have everything we need to have a
Great.
great show. All right.
All right.
So
All
we
right.
live. All right. All right. We're gonna let this play right quick. Yeah. Reality. Back to reality. Yeah, right.
Awesome. Love you.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. A little after 7 now.
So live video.
That's it. Yep. No, no. It'll show up. You'll see the video like you
Mm.
see it here.
Cool.
Okay. So I'll share. I'll make sure I share it.
Yes.
All right. So let's get it kicked off. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another great show of Conversations Under the Hood. I'm your host,
Yeah.
Robert Helm, and we have
Linda Hill.
Dr. Lindy
Dr.
Wade
Lindy
Helm.
Helm.
Yes, we got the doc in the house. That's right. That's right.
All right. All
Yeah.
right.
I hope everybody had a great week. How was your week?
It was good, except that now my baby is sick.
Oh
So
no.
that kind of like didn't end my week well, but
Of course.
as usual, it was a busy week. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Well, yours?
Well, let's see here. Man, last week I can just, after the show, after, having a conversation about planning,
Yeah.
the next 50 years,
Yeah.
I kind of carried that into my week
Very
to
important.
think about, what it is that I'm doing
Mhm.
currently and kind of where I'm anticipating, going or
Mhm.
being. And
Mhm.
so I've been really taking a much deeper look at that. I've been saying it for a while, but now I'm starting to really
Yeah.
think it. So and
Yeah.
spend some time with it. So, so
Yeah.
matter of fact, today we're gonna have our part two of the show. So I'm pretty excited about that, and hopefully,
Mhm.
some of our viewers this evening will have, you know, from last week will be back, and we can continue the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But otherwise, I had a great week.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I started, just listening around too, at work when people talk about their plans and everything like that.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I've learned is like a lot of people are able to come together, combine their resources,
Right.
and advance their families, whether it is academically or, whether it is in real estate
Hmm.
or whether it's any goals or aspirations,
Yeah.
that they have. But
Absolutely.
I was just amazed by how easy it was,
Hmm.
for some of those people to come together,
Hmm.
plan together, and combine their resources and collectively be able to achieve great things,
Absolutely.
such as funding, their business. My favorite one is my friend from Bosnia.
Hmm.
His family or his community, they have this tracking company.
Hmm.
So if you come in as a Bosnian new immigrant,
Hmm.
right away you are employed because that business is booming and it's mature.
Right.
So they help each other a lot. So you start by, right away you have a job driving a truck,
Hmm.
and you're also producing an income, but they also provide you a place to stay that you also contribute.
Oh,
So after a
good.
short period, you have saved enough and have contributed enough,
Hmm.
and they, so they go down the line prioritizing who they want to buy a house for. And
Wow.
then just ask like the new immigrant, you will be housing that person, and they will also be helping
Hmm.
until, of course, you get married and start branching out on your own. So
Right.
I thought it was amazing, and I was just like, wow. Only, if we can have an opportunity to do something similar,
Hmm.
whether it's quality vision or all sports or whatever,
Right.
business will be.
Yeah.
But I thought that was amazing and how effortless it was for them,
Hmm.
And if you remember my friend Juan as well, he used to tell the similar story that a lot of his, friends, family, and immigrants, normally they would leave, they will rent one big house,
Hmm.
and all of them they will work and pay rent there until they saved enough to buy a house collectively that's even bigger.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Kind of like similar strategy. Um, I just haven't heard anything like that with other immigrants. I've heard it, about the Asian immigrants,
Hmm.
Mexican immigrants, and Bosnian European immigrants. I haven't really heard anything at all about African or Caribbean immigrants or any. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Just made me pay attention, and thinking about that as we think our next 50 years,
Right.
what should it look like?
Right, right.
But,
I think that's a great,
yeah.
great way to get the conversation kicked off. Actually, just considering that. So let me ask you this. Considering that you haven't seen, much of, or maybe any, of the groups of people that you mentioned, can you think of a way that maybe we might be able to cultivate that?
I really don't know. So I'm having these conversations with my friends, to say, how did you start?
Mm-hmm.
What was your business plan? Your strategy, short-term goals, long-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
What was your business model?
Right.
Your business framework.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that you can share that can be replicated?
Right.
Because sometimes it start with that being conscious
Mm-hmm.
of how you want to position yourself and help others.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to get my hands on that because I think it's very important, and it doesn't have to be immigrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at us; we have 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
What is our financial model?
Right.
What is
The plan
framework
for the family,
for the family?
Yeah.
For the next 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it worth our children going out there and incur debt?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it is for living expenses or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
or can they look inwards? Like, what prevent me from capitalizing, in what I have right now?
Right. Right.
This property, what can I do to contribute to bring this, or whether it's to pay off the mortgage or to make this much bigger salad and everything for me,
Right.
than to branch out there and then pay someone else, for whether it's mortgage, utilities, and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it started with the mindset, because that's one thing that is preventing most of us from working together.
Right.
And understanding the power, whether it's resources of the collective versus an individual trying to make it on their own.
Right. Let's say what's up right quick. We got a couple people.
Yeah.
Is that Jen? Hey, hold up. Let me go back to first. Let me welcome Rob Green. He watching. Hey, we got one of my homeboys, Mr. Kick 'em in Turbo himself.
Okay, welcome.
What up, Drain? What's going on, big guy?
Welcome.
Nah, hey, you know what they say about the gin, man? They make you sin. So, hey, we ain't telling nothing but truths tonight.
Okay.
So, it ain't gin, but it's yeah, it's juice, definitely.
It's orange juice.
Yeah, but welcome to the show, bro. Thank you very much for stopping in, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so we just really are talking about, for you that are just joining, pretty much planning the next 50 years. Last week we started out talking about, ways that, as a couple or,
As
if
a
you're married
family.
or, as a family, what ways and what ideas, what concepts do you have that you are currently working towards, right? To maybe paint the clearest picture. Because for me,
Right.
I feel like, and I've been saying this for a long time, and I don't know if I've been saying it loud enough for others to hear me or if it's just been more of an internal conversation. But I know clarity for me allows me to be way more strategic and way more proactive at getting things done.
Right.
When I really don't know what to do, I find myself really just my wheels kind of spinning. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why, to me, it's really crucial right now. Because then as I begin to, step out to do something, whether I'm focusing on business or looking for employment opportunity or engaging in the community or whatever it is, I have a sense of why I'm doing what I'm doing and where I'm hoping that this is going to take me.
Right.
And I don't think I spent in this first 50 years really a significant amount of time really thinking about where I'm going. I've been just about trying to do and be and have or to provide, and so I haven't really done
Yeah,
that.
zoom in, having it like a plan, a solid plan, a framework.
Yeah. Or knowing what the end goal, right? Because I think, and it's been kind of frightening because so many people around me are starting to pass away or to be at that point in their life where they're approaching that. And to see how they're acting, the things that they're saying, the things that they're doing, it's surreal for me, especially because most of the people that I engage with, if you will, friends, are in the age group of 60, 70 years old, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
that
when
that is frightening.
yeah, so just
That is
looking at
frightening.
that, it just makes me think, man, wow,
Yeah.
where do I want to be? What do I want to do?
Mhm.
How do I want to exist?
Yeah.
At that point of 70, 80 years old, because
Mhm.
if you just spend your whole life working
Yeah.
and trying to obtain things and you don't really know where you're going with it, at
Mhm.
some point those things, the value is not significant, right?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
scared me the most is how when people go through the process of accumulation
Mhm.
and then they pass away unexpectedly. It's
Mhm.
like you may not have even a chance to enjoy the things that you were working so hard to get
Mhm.
when they are
Mhm.
material items that really don't bring value to your life in a human
Right.
sense. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I know I could go on a tangent all day about
No,
that,
no,
but
it's true. I had in one of the speeches I think Denzel gave in one of the for the graduates. I don't remember what university,
hmm
but he used these metaphors that you've never seen two men in a truck behind a hearse.
right,
You know what I'm saying? Like in other words,
right,
you're not taking that with you. So which brings us to perception of material accumulation
hmm
versus working on solid relationship and creating quality connection with your family, because and unfortunately material materialism can cause a lot of confusion,
yeah,
right? Among family
yeah,
members, and what have you. And it's unfortunate because, those material things are so unimportant,
hmm
right?
hmm
Uh,
yeah. Well, all right. So let's talk
mm,
about that. The next 50 years, if you will, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what I mean, like, let's try to imagine,
Hmm.
where we at 80, where we are at 80 years old, right? Let's
Yeah.
just try to paint that picture. Like, do you see yourself being the kind of person who would want to, have a house on the beach, let's just say. And I'm just throwing different things
Right,
out to
right.
just like try to get you to a
Yeah.
point or get us to a point where we can just say, hey, when I'm at a certain point in my life, this is what I want. This is what I want to be, or this is where I want to be.
um, no, that's really interesting. I'm not dreaming about having something that I don't have right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
That's at 80. I don't see myself, still yearning for material things, whether it's a house,
hmm
wherever,
Right.
whether it's traveling and all that. If anything, happy,
hmm
connecting, enjoying my children and my grandchildren, possibly my great grandchildren by that time.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm going to put joy first,
hmm
right?
hmm
And eliminate all kind of stress that comes with wants
Right.
and dreaming and all of that.
hmm
And I can tell you this: having a house wherever your favorite place is, after a while, that just becomes stuff.
Right.
Remember when we first bought this house,
hmm
the excitement, like, oh my God, there's a basement and look at all this acreage and all that,
Right.
compared to like 5 years ago when we get into today.
hmm
It's a total different feeling.
Right.
Right now, we just feel like it's a house,
Yeah.
it's just stuff.
Yeah.
So I need to keep that in perspective. At 80, hopefully, I will not have any dream of wanting or
Right.
having other than family.
Okay, so let me clarify that
Yeah.
because what I'm speaking more to is the experience and not the thing.
Yeah.
That's why I said on the beach, right? To
Okay.
kind of paint a picture of, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
either a
sunset, enjoying
destination,
it.
a location, or something
Mm.
like that. Because you could be on the beach in a fancy house, right?
Yeah,
Or you could be on the beach somewhere where it's cost effective and sensible, right?
yeah, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah, and it could
Mm.
still be fancy, but not very expensive.
Right,
So
right.
I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? You kind of got to put yourself, in my opinion,
Mhm,
put
mhm.
yourself in a place of, like, really trying to visualize,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, who you are currently, the things that you do now,
Right.
right, and where you're going to be. Because I just think about myself at 80. I'm like, I don't want to have no responsibilities
Mhm,
other than
mhm,
to engage with my children and their children, and maybe their
mhm.
children's children by that time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and just be like a central part of, a pillar
Mhm.
of the family, right?
Yeah.
Or something of that sort.
Right, right.
That to me is the number one thing. So most importantly is when I look at that, it's like, okay, so from a strategic perspective, I know that I have to either create, maintain, or establish, whichever, right? Those types of relationships with my children, with
Yeah.
my children's children, and in order to be that, right? And so that's what I mean about trying to plan, because then that tells me now that if I want that at 80, then right now at 45, 50, whatever,
I
I
need to
need to
start
start.
working
You see
towards
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
that's what I'm kind of talking about, even in the case of the beach house, if you will.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that's where you see yourself saying, hey, I'm 80, I want to be in a warm environment where, it maybe for my health sake, I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
slipping and falling. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
just, really trying to break it down like that, that it gives you kind
Hmm.
of well, it gives you an opportunity to experience before it happens, right?
Right. Right.
And it gives you an opportunity to make adjustments
Hmm.
so that by the time you reach certain milestones,
Right.
right, you
Right.
can really gauge and see if you're on target of where
Reaching
it
the
is that
goal.
you say you want to be. And
Right.
so
Right.
that destination to me is the most important thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Over everything, because it's like your health. You think about your health, right? You
Yeah.
say, hey, well, do I want to be 80 and be dealing with all kind of health issues?
Ailing. Yeah.
Then, well, if you don't, then right now you got to realize,
It's
hey, I
time
got
to
to take some,
prioritize
yep, you got
it.
to make
Yeah.
some moves,
Yeah.
and then start trying to, set those milestones, right?
Yeah.
Because you might not be able to, if it's, let's say it's an addiction or something like that, you might
Hmm.
not just be able to turn that switch off, but
Right.
you
Right.
might be able to start to dim it,
Yeah.
and dim it to the point where by the time right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of the mindset that I have for like planning out these 50 years, because like we've already got the so-called American dream, right?
Yeah.
Except we got way more kids and
Yeah.
a couple more houses.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so that those things are like to me are irrelevant, because the older you get, you start to scale back, right? I
Yeah.
see that happening all around me. Like people, you don't want to be trying to take care of so many
Yeah.
things, right? So
Yeah.
if you spend your whole life accumulating things, what do you think you're gonna have to do at the end of your life?
Hmm.
You either gonna have to take care of those things, or
Yeah.
they're gonna wither away and become trash, or they're gonna go to somebody else. Blah 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 blah
And
blah.
then
Right?
it's so interesting you say that because I we've been in real estate for a long time.
Mhm.
And for instance, when we bought Cornell,
Mhm.
one of our properties, once upon a time that was a very important structure and property to someone else.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
and whatever it meant, to those people, whether it brought them together or whether it tore them apart.
Mhm.
You never know. But fast forwarding, um, the owners at that point, now they're elderly,
Mhm.
and the property became way too much to take care of.
Right.
The kids, were not interested because they were living, one of them I believe was living in California.
Mhm.
So this became kind of like an estate.
Right.
So all that the parents have accumulated, buying all that acreage and everything, thinking that it is for the future for
Mhm.
their children,
Right.
uh, it just didn't work out that way, and they end up selling that property at the amount that even we can afford, you know. So we're coming in,
Mhm.
we're not carrying on the values or the importance of the previous owners, whatever they have. To us, it's just, a house,
Right.
right? And we start creating our own memories.
Mhm.
So I look at it, sometimes I watch these programs where they have all these mansions that were owned by famous or rich people that are now just debilitated and are selling for nothing,
Right.
right? And so that's what material things is all about. What
Right.
it is today, this house one day is going to be occupied by people who really don't care,
Exactly.
about what it once meant to us.
Right.
So putting things in those proper perspective, I think is, very, very important.
Let's take a moment to say hi, man. We have some
Oh,
great,
hello.
great people here. I'm so excited. Listen, we got Mr. Ricardo Hayes. What's going on, my brother? Welcome.
Hey,
We appreciate
welcome.
you. I'm so glad that you were able to join us this evening. Also, we have, oh my goodness, all the way from, where is she from? Australia. We got
Australia.
Isabel
Wow.
Franklin in the
Hey,
house.
Isabel.
Hello, Isabel, and welcome. Thank
Hey,
you.
hey.
We are
Very good.
hopeful and grateful that you will stay with us and share some of your wonderful insight because she is one brilliant lady. And what I really
Mm-hmm.
love about Isabel is she goes out of her way to help people any opportunity she gets. And so for
Mm-hmm.
that, Isabel, you are just a superhero.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for
There you go.
joining us today.
Sorry about that, y'all. We
Yeah.
got 7 children. I mean, excuse me, 5
That's what you wish.
we including
7. Oh,
ourselves.
Lord.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
So we thank y'all for joining us, and please feel free if y'all have any comments or questions or anything, don't hesitate to share them, and just to kind of get everybody up to speed to where we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the next 50 years. My wonderful wife and I are just trying to cast a projection so that we can kind of build a strategic path to
Yeah.
get there. And in the
Yeah.
course of that, we are looking to hopefully inspire other people, maybe who are married or dating or what have you, or maybe want to be at some point, but ultimately be able to, have a real vision for your life individually and collectively. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about tonight. So if you have any comments, like I said, don't hesitate to share them.
Absolutely.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I really, I think, you know, like I said,
Yeah.
projecting and kind of focusing in on achieving, and making whatever changes are necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and really the only way to do that is to keep it kind of in the forefront. And this is why I think painting that picture is so crucial, right?
Yes.
And for me, and I'll give you an example, roller skate, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can roller skate. Some of them roller skate super well.
Right.
Me, on the other hand, and please, folks, don't laugh at me. Well, you can laugh since I can't see you, but go ahead. Um, for me, and this is like really, truly my first experience with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't remember how old I was, but I was a young man, probably somewhere between 10 and 15, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but anyway, I was living in Grand Rapids, and we used to go to the roller skating rink all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would watch people, man, my friends and everybody, they roller skate backwards, and some people doing flips and dancing and doing all
Mm-hmm.
these tricks, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand up. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I can't stand up unless I'm on a wall or something like that. I couldn't
Right.
stand up. So I'm trying to
Right.
figure out. I'm like, how the heck are y'all doing this? How are
Right.
you going, stopping whenever you want to stop, turning whenever you want to stop, and doing all
Yeah.
these cool things, right?
Right.
It
Right.
just could not. I couldn't make sense out of it.
Right.
But and I mind you, I went several times, right? And
Yeah.
so I started out. Again, this is the part that y'all might laugh at me, but I started out. Hey, please watch the comments because we got people. Hey Tracy, how you doing?
Hey,
So
Tracy, good evening.
so the way that I used to roller skate
Yeah.
is, the front of the roller skate had the brake. You know what I'm talking about? That little
Yeah.
rubber thing that's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. Yeah.
stopper, right?
Yeah.
So what I used to do is I would do like Michael Jackson. Remember how Michael Jackson used to go hee hee and go up on his tips?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
used to go up on my tips and then I
Yeah.
would take off running, man. Like you would just
Yeah.
see me running like this, and then I'll stop running and go down on all 8 wheels
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
slide. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not slide, but roll, I guess, as
Yeah.
far as I could roll. And
Yeah.
then once I slow down to a point where I can't, oh dang, I'm looking at the video, it's looking crazy. But once I slowed down,
Yeah.
to a point where I'm basically about to stop, I have to do it again. I go back up on my tippy toes
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
take off running. So, people used
You
to
find
laugh
your
at.
own strategy.
I mean, but
Yeah.
it worked, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I said, oh, so I was kind of putting it together from that context. I'm like, okay, so this brake is being used for something.
Yeah.
Then obviously the wheels are for you to stand on.
Yeah.
And so one day, probably like my fifth, sixth, seventh time or whatever going roller skating, I sat down because they have the spaces like where you can put your shoes on and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I'm thinking, I closed my eyes and I just started trying to imagine.
Yeah.
I'm like, how in the heck are they doing this? How do they just stand there and then all of a sudden they're able to go so fast
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
running,
Yeah.
And then I realized that the wheels,
Yeah.
like if you like when you're trying to slow down, if you bring your feet together, right, that helps
Yeah.
you. I don't know if it's like skiing or snowboarding, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, so once I started to do that, then it started to dawn on me. I was like, wait a minute. So if I push out
Mm-hmm.
off the wheel, then it kind of gives me something to lean on per se, right?
Yeah.
To make me
Yeah.
go. So anyway,
Oh.
so it took me a
Oh.
while to
Okay.
figure it out, but that's the point I'm trying to make about like really visualizing and,
Mm-hmm.
and sitting down and like making stuff in the present instead of
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
how we think about stuff and move past it kind of quickly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, that's just a example of what I was trying to say. Here, let me look at this
Yeah, no,
conversation.
it makes sense. You know, it just made me think of, you know, because it's like that in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I see leaders, you know, other leaders in my employment, you know, the confidence that they have, their
Mm-hmm.
approach, their ability to just break down concepts in a
Right.
way that's impressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like I have to think, I have to plan, I have to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just like do it right off, you know, the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but I narrowed down to this, you know, because I realize that it's in certain settings where I'm not able to do that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and there are different settings where I'm able to be quick on my feet, be able to participate or offer, you know, whatever it is, whether it's an idea, a thought,
Mm-hmm.
you know, really well without having to prepare and think about it, without having to go through that great
Right.
length.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and I narrowed it down to this, you know, self doubt is a killer.
Right.
Oh my God. If you doubt yourself, you know what I'm saying? If you think for some reason you cannot do it or whatever the case may be, that you may as well, you know, accept any consequences that comes with it.
Right.
But I've realized that a lot of things that came naturally to other people and not to me, I realized that it was contributed by my own self doubt.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You
Okay.
know, and that self doubt, of course, comes from you gotta be careful who you surround yourself with.
Right.
You know, you have to make sure you consciously surround yourself with people who believe in you,
Mm-hmm.
people who want to see you succeed,
Right.
people who, you know, they will tell you if you're messing up,
Mm-hmm.
and they will also, you know, cheer for you when you're doing good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I realize that we're not very careful in terms of like who we put around us. Some people, just because they were not able to get it done, they'll tell you that you can't do it. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? It's not possible. You cannot do it.
Oh man.
And the last mistake you want to do is believe them.
Right. I'm so sorry because this right here is not keeping up. So let me
Yeah.
apologize. We got a couple of more guests in here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's
Hey, hey,
welcome the
welcome.
one and only Virginia Caldwell,
Hey,
baby.
sis.
I'm not sure if I
Thank you
said
for
hi to
joining.
Tracy, but Tracy, Nicole, thank you again for joining us. Hey, hey, I hope y'all traveling safe while y'all down there
Yes.
on those roads. Let's see. I think that's it. Yep, so far. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Hold up. We got the doc in the house. Mr.
Uh-oh.
Ronald Caldwell, Mr.
Okay.
Massagem himself.
Okay.
Welcome, brother. Yeah. Hey, again, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, what have you, please put them in the
Yeah,
comments.
feel free to add.
I'm trying to keep up with them the best I can here, but I'm trying to pay attention as well because the boss is teaching tonight. So continue.
If you say so.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about, you know, the worst thing you can do to yourself is to doubt your abilities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because that could also be deeply rooted,
Right.
right? And we're talking about why is it that other people can do things so effortlessly,
Mm-hmm.
so it seems to us,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And you
Mm-hmm.
were giving an example about your roller skating,
Right.
like how come other people can do it?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, you know, from very young age, when you're around people who doubt your abilities,
Mm-hmm.
you start to believe that. And as an adult, you know, depending on your friends or the company you choose to keep,
Right.
you know, for the next 50 years, I have to be very intentional, you know, in terms of like who I keep around me, you know, or our family.
Right.
You know, you want to keep good people that will cheer for you when you're doing well,
Right.
and people who will gently let you know when you're doing wrong.
Can I
Go
interrupt you real
ahead.
quick?
Yeah.
I actually was listening to a guy today who I believe I shared the TikTok
Mhm.
with you all,
Mhm.
and it hit me when I heard it. It just said boom, just like that because I felt like it's something I've been saying for a long time.
Right.
But
Right.
the context basically was the people who we say accept you the way you are,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, versus the people who challenge you to
Mhm.
become better.
Mm.
And basically,
Right.
the concept was, you know, I don't want to say it like in the context of who loves you more,
Right.
but they feel, some folks feel like you demonstrate you love them by accepting them for who they are, right?
Mhm.
And I said, that's interesting. But then, and the flip side to that is when people accept you the way you are and they, put you
Mhm.
into that box, if you will,
Mhm.
um, are they really expressing love in the best way, right? By if they can identify ways or have already identified ways that you could do better, be better, and improve, and don't bring that to you and challenge you to do and become better, is that really an expression of love? And I said, dang, that is right on point, man, because, you know, like I see myself that way, right? What, we got a comment here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so there's a comment there from Ricardo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you called it out, call it out.
With surrounding yourself with people who believe in you. This helps build you up in so many positive ways.
Isn't that the truth? Hey, hey, Ricardo, and we got a gentleman that we share in common, Mr. Manswell T. Peterson, and his lovely wife.
Welcome.
Those are some of the kinds of people that we're talking about. Surrounding yourself with people who encourage you, who motivate you, and who challenge you. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's the challenge. It's like, man, to me, I don't want people to accept me for who I am. Really, I want people to help me be better. Because we all could be better. And, you know, when I think about this is actually a conversation I had with my son before, where he said that's what he recognized about me. You know, he's like, Dad, I understand you. It's not like, you're not saying you're disappointed with people and this, that, and the other. He said what it is your thing is you just want people to do better and be better. You know? And which is true. Because, like, I don't want to tear somebody down without building them up.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I'm not going to come to you and say, you this, without ever trying to tell you what you could do differently or what you could do better. You know? Now, I may not do it at the same time, right? You know, sometimes it come out differently. But ultimately, that's what I'm saying. So.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really an interesting concept because accepting people, you know, for who they are is putting down your judgment lenses, right? You know, like when you accept people for who they are, you don't secretly wish there was something else or they can fulfill some sort of whatever it is that you'd like for them to. What I mean by that is that you don't have a different criteria in terms of, like, you know, how people should be instead of like accepting them as they are. Like, take for instance, let's use height. I'm a very short person. I'm medically challenged. I'm only 5 feet in a good day with a high heel.
Yes.
But you know, what I'm saying is that why would you be with a short person if you truly wish they were taller? You know, you're not accepting them who they are. You're becoming to tolerate them. You know, because then you have to overlook whatever you're not satisfied with.
What if you could tell them that you're not really short, you just don't stretch enough?
See that.
But what if it's? But I'm being sarcastic.
Honest. I know.
But I'm being sincere at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say I have a bad posture. A bad posture can be corrected. You know, a height. I don't care how many times you stretch or whatever, and I'm not gonna do that. But let's say I have a bad posture, right? Let's say I walk, you know, slouch down and all of that, right? People who accept you as you are, you're coming into the room with your bad posture and everything else that you come with, you are accepted in this room.
Right.
And then once you get in there, people who love you, they will say, Linda, you know, bad posture is going to cause you backache, deformity, and everything else. Why don't you try walking up straight? You know, people who see the good in you, people who see your potentials, even when you haven't tapped into those potentials yourself, and they want you to get better, they will bring those kind of things.
That's what I'm talking about, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. So
exactly, because things you can't change. Like, I'm talking about, like, things that you can change, like, you know, physical characteristics.
Yeah,
I think
there's physical characteristics. It's also like, let's say, self-esteem, right? Everybody's self-esteem, you know, let me not speak with absolutes,
right?
But a lot of people's self-esteem is shaped by their upbringing, you know, the environment, the people around them, you know, what they say to build or tear them apart and what have you. So as an adult, you may not realize that by your memory and your body has been keeping count. You know, there is a good book called The Body Keeps Count. You know, I can remember the author, but anyway, the point is you just find yourself functioning and sometimes not understanding why you're not able to roller skate as easy as everybody else. The first time you're not able to digest information as easy as everybody else, but it's because there's so much going on depending on the what you're carrying with you, whether you realize it or not.
Right.
What I'm saying is that people who love you and accept you for who you are, they don't use those shortcomings to tear you down.
Well, I don't see.
They recognize it, and then they help you improve and get better, but you have to be receptive to that feedback as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so just so we clear,
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100% with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And the point that I was making is just that I think it's important for us to accept people,
Yeah.
but it's also important, I would say equally important, for us to help people be the best that they can
Can
be.
be. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
because I feel like if you're not doing that, so the flip side to that is when you see somebody who is doing something, a so-called friend,
Mm-hmm.
who is doing something that you know
Yeah.
is indicative to negative outcomes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you don't say nothing because of
Yeah.
what you're trying to say. You see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so, I think there's definitely a fine line, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, again, that's why I said for me,
Yeah.
I would prefer, like, I'm not saying don't accept me. I don't
Yeah.
mean it like that. What I'm saying is
Mm-hmm.
once we had a chance to interact and you said, hey,
Yeah.
he's a cool cat, and
Yeah.
maybe we are building a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
From that point forward, if you identify things that I'm doing, right,
Mm-hmm.
or things that I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
that I could be doing, right, because
Mm-hmm.
this goes into the people that are surrounded you, right?
Yeah.
Those people around you can help you become or help you identify issues within yourself without ever even saying anything.
Yeah.
Just by being good
Isabel
examples.
has the comment.
Yeah, that's why that's
Yeah.
exactly why I'm actually talking about that, because
Yeah.
Isabel is right on point with that. She says, well, her motto, right?
Mm-hmm.
We believe in you until you believe in yourself, and
Yeah.
then we still continue to believe in you.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
really it. It's
Those
like,
are the people you want to surround yourself with.
hey, and Isabel,
Yeah.
what I like about her is she's your no nonsense loving kind of person, right?
Yeah.
She will
Yeah.
love you
Tough love.
until not even really tough love,
Yeah.
because she's got a spirit of love.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, she challenges you
Yeah.
to
Be better.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or to take life by the horns. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Instead of just letting it pass you by.
Mm-hmm.
So I think again, as we move forward,
Mm-hmm.
and matter of fact, because we just flying through, man, it's 37 minutes here. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
whoa. Let me put the
Already.
brakes on. Let's drop a couple of nuggets here. So far,
Mm-hmm.
well, do you have a nugget that we have that we discussed that you can put on the table for everybody right now?
Yeah. I will say, believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourself with people who accept you as you are and who challenge you to be better, who will cheer for you when you do great, who will also bring to your attention without having to shame you if you're doing something that's not so great.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very, very important. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I will drop another one. Also, be very careful about seeking external validation,
Right.
because the moment you get any kind of rejection, that will just literally destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
So validation should start from within, and the people that you surround yourself with, that you trust and believe that they're looking out for your best interest.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Isabel says here, and then it becomes self-sabotage when they don't have the healthy influences. So,
Yeah.
and that's very key. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the people around you are huge, and a lot of times you don't want to accept that, right? Because you get comfortable,
Right.
within the group of people you are, and you
Right.
don't want to be challenged. And this is exactly why I said what I said earlier, that
Yeah.
I would rather, yeah, you can accept me, but challenge me. Help me be better. Help me do the
Yeah.
best I can,
Yeah.
And so my nugget is going to be oh goodness, boy, these comments are coming in. Let me just quick acknowledge another good guy coming into the room, Mr. Andre Nichols, man. Welcome. Thank you so much, brother, for stopping by.
Yeah.
If you guys have any comments, any questions, any concerns, please drop them below. We having a great conversation and just want to keep it going. Isabel says here, have people run with you, not
Mm-hmm.
just those at the end of the finish line to pat you on the back. Girl, you better
Right.
tell them. Let's
Right.
go through the trenches together. That'll help you become the best you can be,
Right.
and those around you. I agree. So my nugget was earlier we were talking about just that visualization,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I want to encourage people. Mine is a turkey nugget, y'all. It's a little bit long, but I really hope that if you don't get anything else out of the conversation today, please take a moment to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just visualize. If you can't go out 50 years, go out 25 years. If you can't go out 25 years, go out 10 years. Go, try to extend your mind as far as you can into the future of, and when you do that, okay, what I want you to think about is not the things that you want. Don't think about the things you want in terms of materialistic things. Think about where you want to be. Where do you physically see yourself from a health perspective, from a location perspective, or anything like that, right? And then the other thing that you want to do is think about how you want to be. So where you want to be is important, and then how you want to be as a person is as important, right? Because if you have an opportunity now to identify some areas that you can modify so that in those 5 years, in those 10 years, in those 50 years, you can truly be that person that you really want to be, or the person maybe that you see yourself as, but maybe still have to take steps to fully come into that, reality. You have time to do that. And I'm saying this because I just think it's crucial. It's something that you need to practice. If you can't do it on the first time or the second time, you need to practice this, because when you can see things vividly, you can definitely do them. And I know there's been many quotes out there. I can't think of any of them right now, but I know there's many quotes out there that talk about that. Being able to visualize something is what makes it a possibility, right? And so that's my long turkey nugget. I hope it ain't too deep fried and too much barbecue for y'all, but please take a moment and do that. You'll thank me in 50 years.
Yeah.
All right. So that's my nugget.
All right. We have more comments.
Oh man, they're coming in here. All right. So let's see here. What we got? Ricardo says, "I've always loved the saying: if you are the smartest person in your circle, then you need to."
Woo-wee! Wrong circle.
Man, I need to pin that one. I'm gonna have to come back to that. All right.
I agree, Ricardo.
Absolutely.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Hey, I'm trying to tell you.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we got the smartest person in the room, Mr. Andre Nichols. What he got here? He says, before we get to sabotage of trust, safety has to be established. Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, especially psychological safety.
Absolutely.
I agree, 100%.
Yep. He says, when I feel safe with you, I'm more accepting to what is brought into my attention. Hey, I couldn't agree more with that. And matter of fact, that's probably something we should touch on a little bit, because we didn't really. That wasn't a part of the conversation, right? Because, just safety, I think, it really starts there, right? Because, like, whether we're talking about your spouse or those group of people that you might be surrounded by, and let's just face it, right? Some of our friends are friends because we don't want them to be enemies. Think about that.
It's risky.
Well, I'm saying, no. What I'm saying is that it's like a bully.
Yeah.
A lot of people try to be friends with the bully so they don't get bullied. So that's basically what I'm saying. Is some of the people that might be in your group ain't there because you necessarily want that person there. It's that if they're not there, they might become a problem, right? And so I'm just saying that, again, taking that time to evaluate that, right, from a safety perspective, right? Because it ain't safe to be in a relationship that is like that, right? That is contingent on you
being a certain way.
Yeah, otherwise they might respond. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my kind of.
Yeah, this is one of the things that helps, because, as friendly as I am, I'm a true introvert, right? Being an introvert, you rely a lot on yourself, and you don't always look for fulfillment by being around a lot of people or other people.
Right.
And, that alone time does give you a lot of time to assess, what is best for you.
Right.
I'm not going to put myself in areas where I don't feel psychologically safe. Let alone, physically safe and all of that. But if I don't feel psychologically safe around other people, whether it's their energy, whether it is, maybe historical facts that I know, like, I saw this post, one of my friends from UK put this post out there. She said, people encourage you to talk about your problems, sharing your problems with your friends, and then they turn around, use that information to gossip about you, and they wonder why most of us are depressed. And I was just like, wow.
Right.
So I had to reach out and say, hey, are you okay? Are you going through? So trust, and psychological safety, I think are fundamental to any relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel safe in any way if you don't trust,
Right.
whoever the group of people you're around, or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Ricardo, I think he hit it right on the nail with that. I agree.
I think that was Mr. Andre Nichols.
Andre Nichols.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look, me giving credit where
Hey, that's
it's
all right.
almost
Hey,
due.
all of these brothers, I mean, they really got some
Yeah.
great things. I shouldn't just say brothers, but brothers and sisters have some great things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
all right. So
absolutely.
let's talk a little bit more about that plan. All right. So we done looked out there, right, into the as far out into the future as we can, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
we
Yes. Yes.
have painted a picture of, like I said, where we want to be and how we want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think another, and I'm not going to designate this as a nugget, but just as another point, right?
Right.
To mention is those material things, right? That I
Mm-hmm.
said don't think about, don't talk about, or whatever in the course of your trying to visualize. But once you've went through that process, right, and you've got a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good idea of,
Mm-hmm.
let's just say who you want to be, right? For
Right.
lack of
Right.
better words.
Right.
And then at that point, I think another good next point to think about
Mm-hmm.
is those material things. Like, and from the perspective of what do I need? Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily what
What
I
do you
want,
want?
because
Yeah.
when you get to that 80-year point, right,
Mm-hmm.
the things that you need at that point are going to be probably
Mm-hmm.
different than the things that you want right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, so it's kind of like buying things, right, per se, let's just say, that
Mm-hmm.
have longevity to them, right?
Right. Right.
So, and maybe instead of buying a camper, this
Mm-hmm.
is just an example,
Mm-hmm.
instead of buying a camper,
Mm-hmm.
one of those things that you drive around, the mobile, is it, I don't know, is
Yeah.
that a
Yeah. Yeah.
camper? That's a camper?
Yeah.
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 So instead of buying a camper, you buy a cottage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because maybe in, right, 50 years, that camper, see what I'm saying, is the wheels will be
Mm-hmm.
deteriorated or gone.
After you decided whether
Yeah,
it's a want or a need,
right.
and then question that need. Why do I need a camper?
See, you going now? You're
So
going too deep.
okay,
I was
I'm
just trying to
sorry.
use an
My bad.
example,
Let
but
me.
no, I'm just
Yeah.
teasing.
Yeah.
But no, just the point is the two serve the same to an extent, right? The camper,
Yeah.
obviously you can drive it. That's a
Yeah.
little different than the cottage, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that ain't really my point. My point is just that they're both living spaces,
Right.
right? And
Right.
if that's the point that we making a decision on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
fact that we have some that's mobile, that has an engine, that has wheels, that has all these other components to it that will
Mm-hmm.
deteriorate whether it's moving or sitting,
Right. Right.
versus a physical structure that is established in a particular location that will also
Mm-hmm.
deteriorate and so forth, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something that will gain value and
Yeah.
potentially like other factors. So
Yeah.
that's the point that I guess I'm trying
No,
to
no,
make.
no. It makes a lot of sense, right?
Hmm.
Even with a camper, let's say something like that. I will put a need on it. Let's say our children live in different states,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And would like to visit them, spend time with our grandchildren or what have you, without disrupting the energy in their household,
Right.
right? So if you have a camper and you work it out that you just park in their driveway, you continue your life. If you like to watch your late night movies at 1 o'clock, you're not waking up anybody in the family.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If your strategy is, designed that way, I can see how you can justify the need.
Right.
But I'm being very careful,
Hmm.
about assessing my needs. If it's a true need, or is it a need that I feel some sort of void in me? Let's say I grew up poor,
Hmm.
right? And the things is so funny. Homelessness was once upon a time real for me.
Hmm.
Hence, I'm so attracted to real estate.
Right.
I just cannot buy enough houses. You know what I'm saying? And instead of fixing them and flipping them, fix them and hold on. And
Right.
we end up at some point with like 4 different houses,
Hmm.
and it doesn't make any sense. So
Right.
I had to take time and assess, do I need this, or what kind of void am I trying to fill?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I can work on that
Right.
and be aware of the things that I think I need, You
Mhm.
know, another one is like we used to wear school uniform
Mhm.
and socks. In South Africa as well as in UK too. If you wear a uniform, a skirt, blazer and a tie, you have shoes, and you don't have those school uniform socks.
Mhm.
You used to either be punished, and people will make fun of you or what have you. And for some reason, my family could afford, the basic. You got your shirt, and you got white shirt, and you got your school black skirt or whatever, black
Mhm.
dress, and everything else. Oh well, you'll just have to do your best.
Right.
But then I realized that, once, I was grown, was able to provide for myself, I had this strange love for socks, and the whole house is just full of socks.
That's
And
funny.
I'm saying, so sometimes if you don't take time to do this self-assessment in terms of your needs and your wants
Mhm.
and how you behave towards others, you miss a lot of great things you can learn about yourself.
Right.
So I'm brutally honest with myself,
Mhm.
and I honestly love people that are brutally honest with me.
Mhm.
But like I tell you and everybody else, delivery is everything. You
Right.
can have the best message, but if the delivery is trash,
Mhm.
you completely defeated the whole purpose,
Right.
of trying to uplift somebody.
Right.
You know, there's
What
a
we
big
got?
difference. Right.
Oh, hey, I'm gonna let you read that. We got a great comment here from Andre Nichols.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh,
You want to?
Andre's on fire
Yeah,
today.
he lighting it up here.
Yeah.
You want to
Go
read it on
ahead.
here?
Go
Oh
ahead.
man, you okay? Here we go.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. He says, for the co-host, I heard you. Try this poem. All right, this is Invitation to a Brave Space, written by Mickey Scotty Bay Jones.
Okay.
Okay. Together we will create brave space
Mm-hmm.
because there is no such thing as a safe space. We
Mm.
exist in the real
Braves.
world. We all carry scars and we have all caused wounds.
Mm.
In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow.
Mm.
We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. Okay?
Excellent.
We will
Excellent.
not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it will be our brave space together. And we
Mm.
will work on this side by side.
Is that a poem?
This is a poem.
Who wrote it?
I just said, let's see here. It is written by Mickey, I believe, I don't know if Scotty Bay is one word, but
Yeah.
Scotty Bay Jones.
Wow. Oh, I love
Andre,
that.
that is
I
one
love that.
excellent
Thank you,
contribution.
thank you,
Thank you
and thank
very
you for
much.
reading that.
Yes, that is
Yeah,
well said.
absolutely.
Man, wow.
Brave space versus safe space.
Yeah, so that was for you. So come on, give us something. You got to respond to that one.
Brave space feels safer,
Mhm.
to me,
Mhm.
right? Well, we can be brave together. Start from somewhere, regardless of where you perceive yourself to be in life.
Mhm.
And all of this, when you come to a brave space, you're brave enough to share your shortcomings and work on them, right? So,
Mhm.
there's a lot in there, but I truly like that,
Right.
because when we say there's no safe space, um, you have to have this high level of trust. In my work environment, we talk about that a lot.
Mhm.
Trust, it seems to be so fundamental, and it's a reoccurring theme.
Mhm.
Anytime we do a survey and we talk to our employees, we hear this word a lot.
Right.
And my contribution in this from the leadership perspective is that if we don't listen to this feedback loop, from our employees,
Mhm.
when they say they have a hard time trusting, you
Right.
know, then what is it about this environment that we can help,
Mhm.
to create that trust?
Right.
It
Right.
starts with how we handle things, right?
Mhm.
How we communicate and how we manage, the environment, test, and lead our team. For me, I always say followership is just as important as leadership,
Mhm.
because you're not a leader if you don't have followership.
Right.
And most of the time, we spend a lot of time talking about the leadership concepts, the advanced leadership concepts.
Mhm.
And sometimes we forget that you can't be a good leader without good followership.
Right.
I'm saying, to a
Mhm.
certain extent. And there is no organization without human beings, leaders and followership.
Right.
These buildings without human beings, they're just buildings.
Indeed.
So anyway, I
No,
know
I'm just that's I'm thinking, because that poem, it resonates with me. Safe space, man.
hmm
You
hmm
know, what is a safe space? You know,
hmm
and
hmm
that's an interesting question for me because
Right.
that is something I don't think you actually take time to think about. I mean, you might think about it as you're moving about, like you identify, oh, that don't look safe over there, or what have you. But
hmm
just your mind being in a safe space.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm getting from that poem is, you know, you have to be in a place not just physically safe, but emotionally and
Yeah.
psychologically safe.
Yeah.
You know, that
Absolutely.
that allows you to be true with yourself,
hmm
and that allows other people to be true with you.
hmm hmm
And it's interesting because again, last night, our son was talking about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is just that ability to conversate, right? To be truthful, but to also be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting
It takes
about his
bravery.
perspective
Yeah.
was leading with vulnerability. I
Yeah.
thought that was really
It's a
interesting
really
because I'm
good book
like,
about that too.
you know,
Yeah, Bree, I forgot Bree's last name, but it is this author. She wrote a book
hmm
about leading from vulnerability.
hmm
Remember, her first name is Bree, but I can't. But just in life altogether, whether you're leading or not,
right,
when you feel safe psychologically, it's easy to be vulnerable.
yeah,
Or you can be brave and be vulnerable anyway.
hmm
Trusting that whatever you're sharing or whatever you're doing, acting
hmm
in that vulnerable state is not going to be used against you, whether it's
right,
gaslighting or what have you.
right,
Because I had to be, it's interesting. I try to encourage, people.
hmm
Most of the time I talk to people every day. People work in my office for one issue or the other or what have you. Um, and it's so sad to hear sometimes people gaslighting themselves.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? Doubting their own reality. Just to sense if you're going to believe them or not. Just
hmm
to sense if you're going to judge them or not, or
right,
what have you. And sometimes I just say, you know what? Tell me exactly what it is that you want to tell me, and how you're feeling about this. Just for the status, your feelings are valid,
right,
and
right.
it's not up to me to judge whether your feelings are real or not. So you don't have to give me a disclaimer. So
Your
I tell
feelings are your
people that your
feelings.
feelings are your feelings
Right,
and they are valid.
right,
And two, don't ask yourself, was it me or this person? Is the point is that you experienced something
hmm
and it left you in a rather compromised state of mind.
right,
And we need to discuss that.
right,
And we
right,
can do everything else. But I see people doing that a lot. And sometimes to draw from that, I was like, oh my God, I do the same thing.
hmm
I spend a lot of time, evaluating whether my feelings are real or not. And I even did this exercise. Remember our daughter, a 16-year-old, last time you and I were talking,
hmm
and I was expressing something, and I said, even she felt the same way, hey, daughter, do you remember how you felt? And she said, Mom, no. Your feelings are your feelings. Don't put them on me to give those feelings validity. They should be considered as your feelings.
hmm
And I was like, that, and I don't remember exactly how she said it, but that resonated.
That's
And you
huge, man.
know how many times I see people doing the same thing? That I took that all the way down to my childhood. Like, oh my God, if I wanted an idea to take root, I will credit it to the person that I know is well liked in the family.
Mm.
Even a joke,
Right.
right? Because sometimes I thought I'm humorous
Uh-huh.
in my own quiet hour.
Right.
So I will, among myself and my nieces and nephews, I will tell the nephew or the niece that I know is very, very well liked in the family a joke,
hmm
and have them repeat that joke, and then just watching how everybody laugh.
Right.
Then I'm like, oh, that's a joke, that's funny.
hmm
But the problem is that when you say, oh, I'm the one who came up with that joke, the person you give the joke to, they're like, yeah, as if,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, but this is a very common, phenomenon I see in a lot of people.
hmm
Like they will say, studies show that, that disclaimer that, hey, look, even people in
Right.
this realm of knowledge have confirmed that what I'm about to tell you is
It's true.
true.
Right, right, right.
Right?
Get ready.
Get ready. Unless, of course, so I see that a lot, and I often do self-assessment, just try to get to know myself better in order to get to that safe space, to
Yeah.
that brave space,
Yeah.
to that trusting space.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I
So,
think, man, that's wow. When I think about planning the next 50 years,
yeah.
and I think about current events, I have an aunt who is not doing really well right now.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and when I think about, people, like I said, that are approaching points of their life where they either are sickly and unable to do, or unable to be, or unable to change things that they would have liked to do or
Right.
change.
Right.
Um, I just keep thinking, and I don't know, maybe it's a fear thing for myself because I feel like I got one foot in the dirt already.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I don't want to be the person that waits till the end of their life to try to get it right.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people do that, man. Maybe I'm wrong, but the people that I've been around and in those situations,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like when they start approaching certain things, you can see those types of certain behaviors start to manifest.
Yeah.
Like people want to reach out to people that they haven't reached out to, for
Yeah.
instance.
For a long
Or
time.
people saying I love you now, and they didn't say that for the past 20 years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
rectifying relationships. Maybe father son or daughter, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like all
Mm-hmm.
different kind of
Mm-hmm.
scenarios. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying that this is why I'm trying to project out to that
Mm-hmm.
time
Mm-hmm.
and think about what can I do today that will put me in the best situation
Mm-hmm.
then. And I
Mm-hmm.
may not get it right, but
Mm-hmm.
at least if I start thinking about that and start to try to do things that will align me, right,
Mm-hmm.
strategically align me with that,
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel like that's like casting your lure out there in the middle of the ocean, and you don't know what lure is on there, but you know it's a lure. And not
Mm-hmm.
all lures is for all fish, but you do know a fish, some kind of fish is gonna bite. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you leave it out there till you get a bite. And so it's kind of like that. It's casting out into the blind. You don't know what it's gonna be, right? You
Right.
might not even make it.
Right.
But again, I feel like if we are able to, position
Yeah.
ourselves and plan accordingly,
Mm-hmm.
that we'll have a better chance.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's really interesting, and it could be a little bit cultural too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Take my aunt too, who just passed a couple years ago. She doesn't have the luxury of text or cell phones. I think she did have a cell phone, thinking about it, but however way she used it. Uh, but in her last days, she just couldn't wait to go. And every time she woke up in the morning, she thought it was so embarrassing to be still alive.
I remember that.
You know, that's
I
like it's
remember
still,
that.
uh, it still, touches my heart, to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But not once I've heard her talk about her regrets.
Right. Right.
Because if you do the best you can
Mm-hmm.
under the circumstances that you exist in, and with the tools that you have in your toolbox,
Mm-hmm.
that's the best you can. Can you
Right.
do better? Perhaps.
Right.
But I've learned, between self doubts and regrets of the past that you can do anything at all to change it,
Mm-hmm.
but you can try to make amends, in the future. But I will just leave it with this. For me, I think that if you kind, make a conscious effort to be kind, even when it doesn't suit you
Mm-hmm.
at times, and stay in your integrity, doing the right thing, even when it doesn't suit you. For some reason, things fall in place. I've
And
learned this from my mom, my dad, and even my aunt.
mm-hmm.
With very little that she had, she always tried to do the right thing.
Right.
And then at the end of her life, she had not too many regrets. And if she did, we had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because not one time she said, I need to make amends with such and such, or I need everybody to know. She was just ready to go.
That's right. Yeah. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's crazy. We are an hour and 3 minutes, darling. We have exceeded our 60 minutes.
We sure did. It's 8:04
Yes.
already.
Yes.
I didn't realize
No,
that.
that's
But
okay. No, it's been a great, great, great conversation. I noticed it looked like we've been having a little bit of video difficulty, so I'm not sure if we lost all of our viewers too. So
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
was like wondering. I'm like, I saw the comment, the
Yep.
last comment, but
Yep.
yeah, I'll leave you with this too, though. Here's my last, nugget.
That's right.
I've heard this from my direct supervisor, actually. She said, if you cannot run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. And if you cannot crawl, scooch. In other words, you have to keep going forward no matter what.
Right.
And I thought that was amazing when I read that in her profile.
Right.
You know,
I think that's an awesome way to end the show. Thank you very much for sharing that.
yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for
Thank
another
you.
great episode of Conversations Under the Hood. I hope that you've enjoyed yourself this evening, because we sure have enjoyed having you.
Yeah.
And we look forward to next week. So until then, Conversations Under the Hood.
Have a great day. We apologize we didn't see your comments, but have a wonderful evening.
That's right. We're going out to some GTPI, ladies and gentlemen. Check them out on YouTube. Compass Ion, Pocket.
It's impossible to keep them watered when your cup empty. Hope you understand.
Beautiful.
Oh, it's a beautiful song, man. Yeah, that was great, man. That, turned out to be a good show.